Hello, today we're talking about the future of food and some exciting news about the growth of the food and agriculture sector in Minneapolis-Saint Paul with the CEO of PURIS, Tyler Lorenzen. Welcome, Tyler.
Peter, thanks for having me.
Thanks for talking with us today.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to cover. So, climate change, consumer preferences, scientific discovery, all pushing rapid change in what we eat and how we produce our food. And plant-based protein is one of the areas of growth and innovation in the global food sector. And Minneapolis-Saint Paul, Minnesota are a hub for this leading edge of the food system. Tyler, your company, PURIS, is the largest pea protein producer in the United States. I got that all out. And we're excited to say that PURIS is headquartered in Minneapolis. So why don't you tell us about PURIS? What products does the company produce? And where do you sit in the food and ag system?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for that introduction. I do appreciate it. It sounds pretty cool thinking back for where we started. So depending on where you live in the food chain, you would know PURIS for different reasons. So many farmers know PURIS as their seed provider, where we sell them seed and they grow our crops, non-GMO and organic crops, and also as their buyer of crops. So we purchase what they grow back. And we grow peas, soybeans all around the Midwest, here in Minnesota for sure, and all the way west to California and as far south as Georgia. So pretty big program, work with over 400 farmers. But if you're a food manufacturer, you know PURIS as the best tasting pea protein that you can find. And so we are the ingredient that goes into a lot of your favorite food products that you may have had or buy at your local grocery store, Whole Foods, Lund's. There's a big movement in the plant-based meat category, which you've probably heard of Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, things of that nature. There's been a big shift in people looking to eat the things that they love, burgers, chicken, etc., but just happen to be made from plants. And what's happened in the past few years is the technology has really changed what's possible and how those kind of foods taste. And PURIS plays a huge role in creating ingredients from pea protein specifically that makes those foods highly nutritious, but also from a sustainable system all the way back to American farms, as I mentioned at the beginning. So really, I view PURIS as a linchpin of the plant-based food movement and trying to build a more sustainable and regenerative food system globally.
So when you talk about regenerative agriculture, which is a term that some folks have heard of, they're kind of paying attention to the sector, but is probably new to many people. What does that mean, regenerative agriculture, and why would we view that as a step forward?
Yeah, we talked to our farmers about regenerative ag, and it's funny because they said that's a marketing word, and you start looking at the industry, and a lot of people are leveraging it as marketing. But for what PURIS is thinking about is ultimately we want to give more than we take. So how do we build farming systems and food systems that support and enhance the environment versus extract from? And that really evolves a lot more than just the crops you're growing, but the communities that you're building and the connectivity of where your food comes from, how it's made, and really its nutrition purpose, not just for people, but also for planet. So we're trying to build a food system with a lot of intention, where we're thinking about all of the outcomes, nutritional outcomes, but also environmental outcomes, and the result being more the better. So the more that we do this, the better that those outcomes are.
Well, and for folks who are tracking the Greater Mississippi Partnership closely, we've been talking about the new climate economy and the competitive edge that our region can have by moving into that space. And people say, well, what does that mean? Well, this is part of what that means, about food and agriculture kind of moving in a deeply sustainable and regenerative direction.
Yeah, you look at plant-based food, for example, and we think this is one big piece to the overall movement to climate change, really a more sustainable food and ecosystem in general. You can quickly Google and understand how more efficient plant-based food diets are than conventional diets. And I think that's a good place to start. But when we look at those foods and specifically how they're built and the supply systems that they come from, there's so much more that you can do. And so we're starting to think about, really the roles of peas and, why are we making our protein from peas? It's not just because pea protein tastes great, but peas play a specific role in creating biodiversity for farmers and a new tool in their toolkit so they can grow a different crop besides their typical crop rotation and enhance the biodiversity on farm with a buyer that wants to buy it. And one of the big issues with regenerative agriculture and really multi-crop systems are who's going to buy all of those crops. And so PURIS, we're trying to take the role as being a marketplace, creating the demand for better grown foods. And so ultimately, we can build a nutrition system that can be built from plants and taste just as good as what's available from animals.
I'm getting the sense I've underestimated peas.
Yeah, they're a pretty powerful crop.
Yeah. So this company was born in Iowa, and you moved your headquarters to Minneapolis-Saint Paul several years ago. And very recently, PURIS chose to expand in Minneapolis, which is fantastic. Can you tell us about that expansion and maybe the role this region and state is having in your success?
Yeah, maybe going back to the history real quick. So I was playing pro football and I got cut. And my sister, Nicole, who runs one of our businesses called PURIS Holdings, and that really handles all the seed side and then our further downstream manufacturing business. And she was getting her PhD here at the University of Minnesota. She's a biomedical engineer. She's wicked smart. And when I got cut, I didn't know where I was going. So I came here. And the next thing you know, I'm helping build the PURIS business with my dad. And lo and behold, she took a job here in the med device industry and convinced her that we're building something special at PURIS, and she's a huge part of it. And now it just makes sense. Why do we stay? Well, obviously because the winters are amazing. The weather is just fantastic, especially October snows. But truthfully, it's because it's the talent that we're able to recruit here in Minneapolis is second to none. Well, great people. I like to say hardest place to recruit to, but hardest place to recruit from. Once you come to Minneapolis and in Minnesota in general, it's hard to leave. And there's a lot of great people, great community. And the food tech space here, the food science, the agriculture space here is great. And a lot of the demand for plant-based eating gets talked about businesses on the coast, which they're great. They're doing a big part of creating the movement. But the heart of this industry is done in the heartland and in the north here in Minneapolis and PURIS and other partners here in Minneapolis, Cargill, General Mills, there's many, I could go on and on and on, are playing a big role in the plant-based food movement.
That's, I mean, on the talent piece, it's a core strength, obviously, of our economy. But we've been observing this going back a few years about the relationship between the talent base or in med device and health IT, and how there's this movement and how it translates into this kind of future food conversation. So it's exciting to see how that's taking place. Now you're building some new office and production space in the middle of COVID. So you're having to make a lot of decisions in an uncertain time. How are you thinking about your office and that space and how people are going to be working?
Yeah, you bring up a tremendous point. This time is different, and it's unlike any other time, but there's silver linings in everything. And being apart, you start learning on what is the ultimate utility of being together. And as we expand our headquarters here, our office here in Minneapolis, we're really thinking about, well, what's the purpose of the time we're spending in the office, and how do we get more impact when we are together? Because being together is better than being apart. We can all agree to that. But is it always required? And some work is maybe done better at home. So we're building out a new plant-based food center here in Minneapolis, for lack of a better word, with a pilot plant, commercial kitchen. It'll house over 60 employees, really all focused around the plant-based food movement and building sustainable food systems. So when we think about the office that we're designing, and it's not really about the seats and cubicles, it's the utility. So when we're together, we're making things happen, we're making big moves, and embracing the digital landscape. So when we're apart, we're still staying hyper connected. And we're working with a group called iSpace here in Minneapolis, which is headquartered here, and they've done a fantastic job at helping us think through different options to really embrace what the future holds. And ultimately, with the pandemic and COVID-19, employee safety is number one. And so if you're not thinking through that today, you got a lot. You certainly have blind spots. And so safe people, safe food are two key pillars to what PURIS does every day at our manufacturing facilities, and that doesn't change at our corporate office as well.
Well, so you've got this, that makes a lot of sense. You're going to have this new space that should drive the future of the company. It's all about innovation. One of your innovation partners, you got some coverage on this recently, was Cargill. Cargill placed a pretty big bet on PURIS. Can you talk about that relationship and what it means for the work you're doing?
Absolutely. We have two companies largely at PURIS. One is our seed business and all the other things that are not in the Cargill joint venture. So Cargill invested money and is a part owner of our JV that we run. It's called PURIS Proteins, and largely it's a pea protein manufacturing business where we have manufacturing plants in Wisconsin, a manufacturing plant in Iowa, and we're building the largest North American manufacturing plant for pea protein in Dawson, Minnesota. And this past 2018, we purchased a dairy facility that has been around, but we put a new investment plan together to really bring that to new life. And we've done the same thing before in Wisconsin, and that's the cheese state. So it's possible. So really for us, Cargill has been a great enabler to grow our vision, to build out the infrastructure that's required in the plant-based food movement. And we look at creating more partnerships, not only with what we're currently doing, but how can we bring a multitude of stakeholders together throughout the industry, whether that's commercial partnerships or in different ways to enable the growth of this industry that we think is very important to the future, and creating that ability to scale at critical speed, we find to be our duty and something that we have to solve.
So talking about vision and duty, where could PURIS be in 5 years?
Oh, that's a fun thing to think about. In 5 years, there's no telling how big the plant-based food industry will be. It's growing at incredible rates. And I believe PURIS is set up with our partnerships and with our great team to be the market leaders and to continue to solidify ourselves as a key player to grow this industry, and not only grow from a consumer side, that is absolutely important, but bring the farmers along too. And that connection from the soil to the food and everything it takes to make it come to life cannot be forgotten when we're building these new food systems. And that's what PURIS is all about and what PURIS is focused on. So I see in 5 years, we enhance the community that we've already started and invested a lifetime to build. And we make meaningful impact here in Minneapolis, but also globally on the plant-based food movement.
I mean, it's very exciting. We're so enthusiastic about the expansion, in this region, the connection. This is a great Minnesota story that's developing. And I know a lot of us are behind you to support that growth and success. So thank you for sharing the story and for the work that you and your team are doing. And we look forward to being in close contact.
Peter, thank you. And we're proud to be here in Minneapolis, where we've accelerated through COVID. We continue to bring more people onto the team. And if you want to make things happen every single day and enjoy people that are doing the same side by side, this is a great place for you. So if there's folks looking, give us a call. And if you haven't tried the plant-based foods before and checked out that diet and some of the options, and you're curious, give it a try. We'll continue to make it taste better, be more nutritious, and we'll make sure that it's as much as it can possibly be grown and made in the USA.